Hi, everybody. I'm Emily Best. I'm the founder and CEO of Seed&Spark, and this is our latest creative sustainability session. If you haven't joined one of these before, the creative sustainability sessions are here to do just that. They're help you to build sustainable careers. They're here to help you sustain your creativity. I'm joining you from Sacramento, California, which is occupied Nisenan territory. It's important to us to acknowledge the native land that we're on, and we highly recommend downloading the app from nativeland.ca that will show you whose land you're on, because probably it isn't yours. I'm super excited about today's session. Lisa Cunningham, I met through a friend in Atlanta, and she's just about the shiniest dang light in entertainment that there is. And I hate when people oversell me before I come on to speak, so I'm not going to put that kind of pressure on her. But I've seen her give a version of this talk before, and I'm really here to just ask questions and moderate some audience questions. So feel free to drop your questions in the comments as we go, and I'll be keeping track and trying not to interrupt, but also making sure that we get to answer your questions. So without further ado, Lisa Cunningham, can you join us on the screen?
I can.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. And you know, we're cross country because I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
It's so wild, this time that is just, we can just sort of be wherever now.
Yeah, because we've done this a couple of times live, and you know, the concept of us not connecting isn't an option, right? Yeah. So I really appreciate you having me out today.
Oh, I'm so glad you could join. So Lisa, for full disclosure, everyone, Lisa's recently joined Seed&Spark's Creative Action Board because of your extensive experience in entertainment. And so I want to stay out of your way today because like you have this incredible story to tell. And so what I'm going to do is occasionally like ask questions to dig deeper, because I know I've heard you give this talk before and we gave you sort of like 10 minutes and I was like, oh my God, I have so many questions. So now we have a whole hour to unpack it, which is super exciting. And I think, you know, you have such an incredible story about like self-knowledge and integrity and the challenges that you can face in trying to maintain those things. So like, talk to us about how you got started.
Well, you know, it seems almost mythical at this point in this day and age of internet and the way we connect, right? Because back then, and I'll be dating myself because I got started in the early 90s in Atlanta's music industry scene that also had a big film component because there was a plethora of music videos being shot at the time that were unreasonable budgets. And so I always had a knack for, you know, networking, and that was never my problem, even before, you know, the age of social. And so I met this art director, Ricardo Butler, who took me to one music video set that was in a park in Atlanta. And the lead girl was from New Jack City. And at the time, it wasn't the same. So when you had an actress or actor come into Atlanta, Georgia, you were just, oh, this is so cool. And at 19 years old, you know, I told my parents, you know, hey, I might have to think about, you know, changing careers. So yeah, that was how I got into the business, was through meeting this art director. He took me on to this set, and Emily, I never left, basically, you know? Yeah.
And you started what, in the art department or as a PA?
No, I started as a PA. And what happened from there is that, you know, you see an environment and you look at your skill sets. And this is a lot of what I talk about, you know, now, is that we have to assess the things that we're really good at. And, At the time, I was really good at wrangling people and organizing and things like that. So even as a PA, I was, kind of figuring out my lane, so to speak. So I went through the ranks of PA to second assistant director to assistant director. And then I morphed into what we call more the production side of things, where I was, production manager, producer. But that was later. And so I spent many, many years on set barking and yelling. And, I feel like I yelled throughout the entire 90s,
But you yelled at like some of the biggest names in hip hop through all of the 90s. Like, let's be honest. You don't usually do this. I'm going to force you to like brag a little bit about the sets you were on and the music videos that you worked on. Like, just give people the context for that, because
Sure.
like, I think it's hard for people to wrap their mind around exactly what happened and at what scale during that time.
Well, think about Atlanta during that time period. It launched some of what is still the quintessential biggest acts, from an urban standpoint. So I was there when TLC said, "What about your friends?" On set, and I was there. A lot of people, if you look back at this old TLC video called "Baby, Baby, Baby," it was filmed, and it looks like we're on a college campus the whole time. Well, in actuality, we're at this place called the Stratford Inn in downtown Atlanta, completely on the other side of town, filming this portion of the music video. And so that's the magic of that world. As you know, the film world, we always have many illusions. But, when Criss Cross said jump, jump, I was there. When Escape was just kicking it, I was there. Players Ball, Outcast. I mean, I could keep going on. And even to the 2000s, I got a chance to, work with all of those artists that, had these limited runs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the Little Johns or the, all of them, the Franchise Boys, all of these kind of subsets of the Atlanta culture. And it was a great run, Emily.
But you were mostly working. I mean, once you ascended the ranks, you got to assistant director, and then you like hung out there a while, right? You were everybody's like first call. If you're going to AD, it's going to be Lisa.
And you're bringing up a good point, because that was a place where I became defined.
Mm-hmm.
And at the point where you become defined as something, whether it's good or bad, you have to be careful about living in that world, because if that's not where you want to ultimately be, then you have to be careful about how long do I stay here? What does this mean? And what happens when other people start telling me, no, Lisa, I had God rest his soul. This guy was an incredibly energized guy. I used to work for MTV, Todd One. And Todd One would hire me, and he would also know that when he went to do one of those behind the scenes with BET, that he also would do the access granted, right? And he'd say, "Yeah, Lisa, you do the access granted. You narrate the whole, scene for us and stuff." And I told him, I said, "Todd, I'm directing now, and he said, "Oh no, Lisa, you're an AD. You're the best AD there is." And he didn't mean to offend me, but of course he did.
Yeah. Right. So this is so interesting to me, because I think the entertainment business is often sold to people as like military ranks that you have to ascend. Yeah. And then once you get to a certain place, they're like, "Oh no, you gotta like do this until your retirement." And you're like, "But I don't actually like that job anymore. Like, I did it, thank you, but this wasn't my dream." Like, you can get stuck in support roles and service roles. And I know this happens so often to women in the business, is that they want to be directors, they end up as producers, right? They want to be directors, they end up as ADs, they end up as like in these support roles so often, just because what you're talking about, you get sort of defined from the outside.
Well, what I like to say too, Emily, is that in the meantime, we've got to be so laser focused on what our next is. So we're so busy living. I was so busy paying the bills, having fun, whatever. So because it wasn't a miserable life, right? It was probably a toxic life. I am not that person anymore. But it wasn't a miserable life. But I got caught up in, the certain aspects of that business and didn't realize, hey, what is the real game plan? What is going to give me real fulfillment in my life? And I had never really considered that until I got much older. And I'm not ashamed to say that now, because we have to meet everybody where they're at. I went to an art show last year with some amazing, art students who at 16 and 17 were doing presentations that were politically infused and all of this. I was hanging out drinking beers and, doing ridiculous things at that age, but these kids were not. And so everybody comes at this place at different stages. And so you've got to know that at any point, that's where the remix can happen.
Yeah. So how did you, or when did you know that what you wanted to do was direct
and produce? I realized it. I realized it when I started to be involved in too much content that I didn't approve of. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
So at the point where I'm not in any way controlling the creative process, at the point where I am at the whim of, okay, I am to tell these people that they're going to have to, shake their butt for, 10 hours on a screen. And there's nothing wrong with that. So that's not a diss to that culture, that society, because there's many layers to life, right? People kill me talking about the music today and the Migos and the this and the that, and that it's so toxic and it's so that. And I'm thinking to myself, when I went to college, our favorite song was by this group and it was called, Hey, We Want Some, da, da. And I'm not going to tell you what that word was on this program.
You are totally allowed to say that here, but I get it also.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking back, like there's always been crazy, toxic music. Come on, and so that voice is, but it just wasn't the voice for me anymore. Mm-hmm. And because I didn't take that time to figure out what the remix was for me, I stayed in that space a little longer and a little longer. And you are so right. The industry will just keep you in there. And especially as women, I mean, you can forget it. And especially if you're a gender non-conforming woman that presents as I do, because the people, the powers that be really are not thinking about, hey, I want to hang out with Lisa because it's a potential date. And maybe I'll give her her work because it's a potential date. And,
right.
And so there are opportunities that are given to some women still to this day that aren't given to others. And so, you have to have it so deep in your mind, but what I talk about a lot that is my main focus is when I read this book years ago, The 4 Agreements changed my life. Because there is this thing that you don't realize that you signed up for, basically at birth. And so whether you come from what they call, air quotes, a good family, or if you were raised of humble means, you go through a system that signs you up. I come from a highly educated family, right? No entrepreneurs, Emily. Not one in my immediate family. Doctors, lawyers, professors, that sort of family. And what I realized, and this is the key, if you're watching and you don't take anything from what I'm saying today, this is the key. I didn't realize that the reason why I was in a box in my career is because I had still signed up for the agreement that my family had made for me. And I never fully embraced my entrepreneurial spirit because my rhetoric would always be like this. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm my family. Yeah, they're those guys. They're in academia. They're this, that, and the other. And I'm the black sheep. I'm in the entertainment business. What are you talking about? You're not the black sheep. You're just a different version of a shining star. And why did it take me so long to interpret and understand that? And mind you, my family never was the people who were looking down on me. So that was something I had imposed on myself. It's even deeper.
It's so interesting what you're talking about, because there's the box that you're put in from the outside. Zara just commented that she thinks you might be from the same family. There's the box that you are put in externally, right, by the people around you who come to know you in a certain role. And then there's the box that you put around yourself that is the internalized voice of your parents, which over a period of time is no longer their voice at all.
That's right.
If you told them what they were saying to you inside your head, they'd be like, I would never say that.
There we go.
And so I would really like to hear, so you read this book, it changes your life. Yeah. And how do you start the process of redefining yourself?
Yes. So I had this moment with, I had a client, a wonderful heritage Black newspaper. And when I say heritage, run by people over 50, the publication had been, around for many, many years. And I've always been, never told anybody this, I've always been terrified of old Black Atlanta, even though I came from it. It's the strangest thing, because the elephant in the room was how I present myself, right? And that always made me feel like that's not a space where they accept people that look like me. So I had done this wonderful video for their anniversary celebration, and I had to go to the event where the current mayor was there at the time, and everybody played this video, and the owner of the company gave me a shout out and all of this. Mind you, I wasn't even there yet because I was just scared. I was waiting to come inside. And when I finally made the decision to walk in that building, it changed my life, because I was embraced with so much universal love and support. And it didn't matter that I looked like this. It didn't matter. And this wonderful man came up to me. He had to have been about 65 years old. And he said, hey, how do you identify? I said, what Mars planet am I on right now? Right? He says, how do you identify? I said, well, she, her. I said, or he, him. You can call me what I feel comfortable with both. He said, well, let me tell you something, girl. You did your damn thing on that video. And it was amazing to know that we got to sometimes get out of our own way, because that baggage the energy of that baggage will prevent us from getting opportunities. Not somebody else's energy, our own energy will prevent it. So that was really the time when I just said, oh, all bets are off. I'm going to start working with all the people that I want to work with. I'm not doing any more of this crap anymore. And not crap, but just things I didn't want to do anymore. And I honestly can say since that time, never have. Never have.
Did you have a moment where you were like, I'm not going to take another AD job?
Absolutely.
And then you just didn't?
And so once you do that, Emily, once you make that remix, so I like to talk about this. You heard me mention the remix a couple of times. What that means for me is a metaphor, of course, because I come from the music business, right?
Yeah.
And so the remix is this concept of a song might be great, okay? I'll take it back to many, many years ago when I was marketing manager over at Hot 107.9. It's a radio station in Atlanta, Georgia. And I mean, this is many years ago. And we had a roster of talent that was going to perform on one of those like jams, where you have multiple artists and everything. And, when it starts, you got the newer artists. So here goes this girl group comes up. They start performing this song, and the crowd is really looking like, oh, you can hear the rumbling like that they're almost gonna boo. And they were singing something like, no, 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 no. And it was real slow, you know.
Uh-huh.
And somebody in their camp was like, we're not going to let them die in the water like this. Somebody had the sound person put on the remix. And all of a sudden that beat kicked in, boom. And it was Wyclef's beat, and the group was Destiny's Child. And we already know how that story turned out. But it was, in fact, the remix that catapulted them, because that original single, No, 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 didn't have the legs. And so I always think back to that because it's an actual physical moment where I saw, boom, how the remix changed everything in one instant. And so I had to think of my own life like that. I had to say to myself, so Destiny's Child was a good group. There was no debate about that. They had trained for it. They were ready. Yeah. But at some point they had to collaborate. And that's what I mean about the remix. You might have to collaborate with another person. You might have to speed things up. Sometimes remixes are faster and sometimes they're slower. You might have to slow it down. So I think that is what I finally found out in my life of, wait a minute, let me take a step back and see what I've got to offer and to see how I can parlay the relationships that I already have and expand on the ones that I don't have. Because once you realize that you're not talking to enough people, once you realize that the world is so big, and then through this thing called the internet, you can do anything you want and talk to anybody you want, it's a game changer. But I realize that most people are on their computers and on their Instagram, and they're following people who can really never bring them really any value. It's the oddest thing to me. I've always been fascinated. And that's the first thing I do when I go to talk to young people at colleges and universities and high schools. I always say, who are you following on social media? And I make them yell it out. And when they realize that if they want to be, an animator, then why are you not following somebody in a department that can eventually hire you for an animation job?
Right.
Why are you not going to people's LinkedIn pages and trying to connect? Like, this thing is so powerful. It is indeed smart.
Yeah.
And I have gotten so many opportunities from it. Really.
Actually, you're reminding me of this is sort of apropos of nothing, but a young Black woman reached out to me on Twitter, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago. She saw that I was connected to a woman who's also like a marketing maverick from a venture fund.
Okay.
And she's like, I know this is wild, but like you miss all the shots you don't take. I really want to be connected with this woman. Here's why. Would you connect me? And I was like, yeah, just send this to me in an email that I can forward to her. I gave her my email address and she sent it to me in an email. I forwarded it to this woman. This woman was like 100%, I will take this meeting. And like, just like that. And I have no idea how she figured out I was connected to Lizzie. Like, I think she might have seen it on LinkedIn, knew that I was more active on Twitter, like paid attention to figure out how to get where she wanted. And I love thinking about how those moments change people's lives, even if it's just the yes.
Yes.
Like, I put myself out there and I heard the word yes, because that you really only need one of those in a sea of no's to keep going. Like most of us who are trying to be entrepreneurs are so pathologically optimistic that if I can get one yes out of 1,000 no's, I'm like, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Right. I'm moving ahead.
Absolutely. And you're bringing up a good point too, because what does that really mean when she reached out, right? There is a moment of humility.
So humble.
Okay.
Of like, I need help.
You need help.
Yeah.
I recently did this platform. One of my favorite things in Atlanta is my sister friend, Dr. Key, runs Village Market ATL. And it's just this collective of Black folks helping each other and Black businesses supporting each other. So she has a contract with Google, and they do this thing that they don't even publicize that much, which is what I really love about it. And it's called Unstuck. And what they do in this virtual space, of course, it used to be live, is that they get 4 businesses and they team them up with like an hour-long chat with other people who could potentially help them because they're kind of stuck right now. So there are businesses that might have been in business 2 to 5 years, you know what I mean? So proven, but Emily, how it gets. And so I had the occasion to do one recently where I was able to offer some advice. But what happened was I met one of the businesses that I was helping to get unstuck. I said, wait a minute, I can use her for this. I can use her for that. This woman has already gotten a couple of checks from me off of not being afraid to admit that she was stuck.
That's really amazing.
It's just that simple.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so how did you get up the courage to be like, I'm not an AD anymore? What was that moment? And do you remember stuff that you turned down?
I can honestly say I don't remember stuff that I turned down, but it does seem as though high profile things were coming my way. I don't remember the exact things that they were. And even past AD, I stopped producing also things that didn't agree with me. And that was even worse, because people were calling me to produce music videos, and I just simply could not do that anymore. And I just had to trust that the universe was going to make sure that I was okay. And at the point where you really trust that, no matter, and not to get spiritual, but it's just no matter what you believe in, no matter what version of God that you believe in, God always has your back. And so that principle alone, if we really lived by that in the most primal level, we'd be okay. But we don't, because we have man fear, woman fear. We have, the fear that we're not in control, and we always are. And that's a hard thing.
I want to dig into that because I feel like the biggest thing that pushes people off of their dream, their integrity, their whatever is financial pressure, economic hardship.
Okay.
So the point at which you were making this transition as an entrepreneur, but also as somebody who worked basically as from gig to gig, right? Like you got this producing job, that producing job, like you from client to client is a better way to say it. Were you in a position where you were like, I'm not going to starve so I can make this change? Were you because
I totally was down with starving to make the change. So it didn't end up, particularly, there were some lean times for sure. But as the Black folks say, but the glow up was so phenomenal. I mean, you go from like your credit score being God only knows what, because you max out everything and you do,
Yes, I do. I do know.
And I was joking with somebody the other day. I was like, wow, I didn't even know, what it was to have a good credit, and it's like, I have good credit. And I'm just like, oh, okay. But but it's so crazy because we sign up for all of these agreements that our parents and all these different things when we really should be signing up for a course on how to deal with capitalism in America. Now that is a course that we should all take.
So I want to talk about something because you've sort of alighted upon a certain kind of integrity, which is like, I don't want to be responsible for putting work out into the world that doesn't agree with the way that I want the world to be, right? we're in this really interesting moment with the internet that we have a lot more information about the companies that we interact with on a regular basis. And I was having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day, sort of like, obviously everybody's hands are dirty in capitalism. We know this, right? Like if you have an iPhone already contributing to like wars in Africa and unsafe working conditions in China, and like that's an agreement that you're making, right? That's right. And there's a piece around entrepreneurship, building companies, particularly in entertainment, where this business relies on unpaid or low paid labor, especially at the beginning, like when you're trying to get started. And artists are so undervalued anyway that we put that box around ourselves and we undervalue ourselves, right? We don't charge for what we're worth. I'm really curious about how you tackle and encounter integrity as an entrepreneur in the entertainment space, and like what are the common quandaries, and how do you live in that gray area?
Yep. So what I did is, for a large part, I left the entertainment space.
Oh.
Ha-ha! So when I started to see that, gosh, I keep getting these offers, I keep getting compromised. But at the end of the day, I want to tell stories. How do I do that and still get a check? Because a lot of documentarians are out scrapping to tell their stories. That's just not, where I'm at per se, in terms of, wanting to secure my future and then also tell the stories that I want to tell. And so I ended up getting into branded content. Now that is a great segue from what you were just talking about, because the point is, wait a minute, now you still are producing something for a company that we know, probably has some bad business practices, right? But what is the content that I produced? One of my favorite things last year I did was for McDonald's. So you're saying, oh man, McDonald's? But it was a thing encouraging people, with a girl named Rashawn Ali who lives here in Atlanta. And she's just a bright personality, went to an HBCU. So it's just this strong Black womanhood piece, inspiring young girls to go to college and, be their best selves. And I mean, it's a piece of work that I'm actually proud of helping to produce. So at some point, right now I work with the Black Women's Health Imperative, and their whole mission is aligned with what I stand for.
Right. Absolutely.
But I want to say this. This is the part. Once again, this word keeps creeping back up. Humility. The humility of the pivot and the remix for me was so real. And this is, once again, one of those things. If you don't take anything away from what I've said today, listen to this, is that I had to do something else. Remember when I said, you got to figure out what you're good at? I'm really good at social media. Really darn good at it. I used to do it for fun. I used to do it for every now and then for a company for fun. Never did I know I would end up being somebody's digital media strategist or anything like that, and actually managing people's social media. But I had an opportunity to do that with this company. And yet again, it was another remix. It wasn't the great big producer job. It wasn't all of this. Emily, had I not done that way prior to COVID-19, I would have been like a lot of my sisters and brothers who have been out of work for how many months now? So I'm ready to shoot. I'm about to shoot a very big artist on for a commercial on the 20th. But I wouldn't have been working currently, right? If I hadn't humbled myself into saying that, hey, this is another skill set that I have and a way to make money in the meantime.
Yeah. It's interesting. Now, so my mind is kind of going womp right now, because I feel like now the concepts of integrity and humility are are conflating for me, because they're the humility to sort of like accept the system that you're in, right? And take a path that maybe isn't the one that gives you the big ego boost, right? But is the one that gives you another skill in your portfolio career, which is what most artists end up building, is a portfolio career that's usually vastly different skill sets.
That's right.
My husband is an actor. He's a musician, and he is a personal trainer. He's a brilliant personal trainer, but of course, there's not a lot of work across those three things right now. And he's like, all right, I got to add a new, totally different skill to my portfolio. Right. So there's a humility in sort of understanding the circumstances and operating within them, right? And I think there's something really interesting about that, because it's also sort of saying like, I'm going to get comfortable with the McDonald's piece if I can put a workout in the world using their platform that shows the world the way I think it should be seen.
Exactly.
And I think it's, it's interesting because in some ways, and I have a really hard time with this, because I both teach this and believe it, and then also see all the things that are problematic with it. But like, commerce is an incredible tool we have to change the narrative.
Yes.
And like, I think about the difference between the NBA last year pre-COVID and last night, when every single NBA post-game interview was every question that the athletes were answered was answered with justice for Breonna Taylor.
Right.
And I wept watching that, because I was like, this is using commerce as a platform.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they know that people are so desperate for sport that like, that these athletes have such an incredible position in the commerce universe, that they can use their platform to demand change. And like, capitalism is like the thing that is responsible for a lot of this, and also sometimes our best tool to fight it.
That's right.
But I find that a constantly challenging position to be in, both as an artist and as an entrepreneur trying to support artists.
Yes.
And so I'm just like, when you bring humility into it, to be like, why do I need to be so important as to like get to what a privilege to sort of like divest from the system as it is, while everyone else is still having to scrap within it. Like, we actually need to be able to build pathways for people to get out. I have a friend who's writing an incredible Medium blog called Escape Pod, where he's basically like, we can't divest from capitalism, but tiny pods of people can eject themselves.
There it is. Oh, wow. If you didn't sum it up, there it is.
Right. Like, and I feel like in some senses, like, some of our decision making can eject itself. Right. But man, thinking about being willing to sort of say, like, this is my circumstance. There are things being offered to me that maybe don't feed my ego, but feed my pocket. And that ends up being the thing that keeps you alive to make your work another day.
There it is. It's really just that simple. But, and I will always say this, I joke with my partner about this all the time. I do believe that I would have, in the 60s, I would have been rallying with John Lewis and Martin Luther King. That's me. But I absolutely feel like that we needed Angela Davis and Malcolm X as well. And so I do know that I love the way your friend put that, because I do think that we do need all of these different groups to make real change. And so some people do it from the inside and some people do it from the outside. And so, it's a complex map, but I definitely think that it takes all players. Yeah.
I want to answer some of the more easy questions really quickly, which is where you are on Instagram to follow.
Sure.
Lisa is a delight to follow on Instagram.
Not lately, because I've been working too hard.
Capt Cunningham, right?
That's it.
As in Captain Cunningham. And the other one was, the podcast name. No, it's the thing that I was talking about. Escape Pod is a Medium blog written by James Kalin. Mab Studio Multimedia asked this question: do you have any thoughts about trying to pivot up? How to stop being the run and gun predator who has to do everything and become the producer director who has the resources and budget to bring on support?
Yes. The pivoting up, I always talk about this scenario I heard from a Black preacher years ago when somebody invited me to his church, and I tipped the collection plate so much that day for this one nugget. He said, in life, there are adders, subtractors, multipliers, and dividers. Okay? So if you look at your life and look at the people that are in your life, you should tally them up that way. It may help you out. It may help you figure out how to respond and treat certain people in your life. But I guarantee you what most of us don't have enough of is multipliers like me. I'm a multiplier, Emily. You are a multiplier, right? Yeah. And so when you start talking about pivoting or remixing up, you've got to get to a point where you've got more multipliers in your life than you do adders. Because we want to have a lot of people that add to our life. That's the person, that's the friend who, when you're sick, they're like, yo, I'm going to bring you over this. I'm going to drop it off. Boo, boo, boo. That's an adder, you know? But the multiplier is the person that's going to help you with that pivot, the person that's going to help you with your business plan. And you've got to get out of your comfort zone to do that. You've got to become. And when we get, I guarantee you, whoever asked that question probably isn't 25. Because when we get a little bit older, we that humility and that ability for us to just make those cold calls and to just say, hey, you know, put me in, coach. I did that, and it has helped me immensely. Yeah. But I was one of those egomaniac people too. So I wasn't a great person. First of all, I wasn't a great person in the 90s. You know, this Zen version of myself. That you didn't get that back then. You know.
I mean, in order to be an assistant director on the sets that you're talking about, I can't imagine that having a like soft and sunny disposition was really going to get the job done. So I get it. The thing that you're saying, I feel like is so important because when you really talk about pivoting up, it is about who's around you. I talk to artists about this a lot all the time. I'm like, if you think about sort of your creative friend group, do you love their work? Woo! Like, do they blow you away? Because like you have to be around a community of people whose work scares you. It's so good. Like, do I deserve to be here? It's so good. You know what I mean? Like that I really feel like, and I found that in LA of just being around this group of people. I mean, I feel that about the people at Seed&Spark. Like they scare me all the time. Like, why am I in charge here? This is absurd. Like I'm what I am good at. The reason that I think I am a multiplier is because I'm good at bringing people together who are going to be more than the sum of their parts. And that's why I love producing, right? Like, I think I'm really good as a producer being like this group of people go, like, see what happens, right?
Yes.
But it is about the community that you're in. And so the question was specifically about how do you become the like producer director? And it's because you have to have all those other people around you who can take on that other work and do because they love the work that you're making together. Yeah. And that's the piece I think is like, I think some people get kind of like, they get sort of collaborator stuck also of like, this is the group of people I work with. But then that group of people is really only wants to make the sum of everybody, like the overlap of everyone's tastes. And I spoke to a friend of mine recently who's a producer who's produced a ton of movies with this one director duo that are incredible movies, and they're not working on their next film together. And I was like, oh, did anything happen? And he was like, no, that film wasn't my cup of tea. So I'm doing my thing. I was like, that's so great.
Right.
That's so great. Like, you're not stuck in the collaboration. They can have the work that they really love, and they'll build a different team around that. And if I have the work that I really love, I'll find a different sort of multiplier team around that, because not all people are multipliers for all of the same things.
Yes. And Emily, I will say this. Look at your circle and you guys let go of the bitterness. I guarantee you that most of the times people on the come up who are trying to get to that next level, they're so damn bitter about the people that are already on that certain level. Oh, so-and-so is not really that talented. Oh, blah, blah, blah. But that energy, once again, this energy. But let me tell you something. I do not like the person who sits in the White House, right? Can't stand him. But I'm going to tell you one thing. People like that get to where they are because they are so laser focused on themselves. They're not even, that fool is so damn laser focused on his narcissistic self. Yeah. And so we, as good people, I guarantee you whoever sent that question in is also probably a good person, because it's hard to be a good person and make that pivot also, because you're constantly like, you know, you're thinking about other people, you're helping out, you're doing stuff for free, you know how we do, Emily.
Yeah.
So at some point you have to say, how do I still be a good person? Because I'm not ever compromising that part, right?
Yeah.
Not doing it.
Yeah.
And also make the pivot. And that becomes, you know, the challenge. But the challenge, and I hate these key catchphrases, but I can't think of any better way to say it to you, but to stay laser focused and not think about anything else except for what your ultimate goals are. When I got laser focused on, and let me tell you this, for me, it's not about writing down goals, right? This 5-year, people tell you 5, 10-year plan, I'm a Sagittarius. The act of writing down some damn goals, Emily, makes my ass, it just makes me just, my head hurt, okay? You're saying, how can you be a successful professional and you don't write your goal? That's rule number 1. Let me tell you what I write down. I write down my dreams. So I got this new dream. I got this dream that I wrote down, that it's about me completing this marathon, and I can view my partner at the finish line. It's making me almost tear up thinking about this damn dream. Okay. I can view her at the finish line, rooting me to across that line. I'm overweight right now. I'm eating a little too good right now.
Oh, we are.
Okay.
I've been drinking a milkshake this entire time.
Right. But that dream makes the goal, makes me map out the plan for what it has to happen in order for me to see my partner. So stop thinking of it in these dollars and cents kind of thing. Think about it in a dream capacity.
Apparently there's a lot of Sagittariuses watching right now, by the way, because all these people are like, oh my God, Sag energy, me too. Like, can't write my goal. So you're blowing my mind right now. You're talking literally about running a marathon.
Yes.
But this is like an out there over the horizon dream. It's not something you can do next week. This is something you have to change your lifestyle. Yes. You can't have milkshakes on all of your live streams.
Yeah.
Oh,
but it's so, think about that. Isn't that so much more motivating than thinking of this? Because it's also this thing, you know, one of my favorite, God rest his soul, Wayne Dyer, right? Such a powerful man. You should, you know, Google him, listen to some of his talks, people. He also says this thing about being careful about always what's next, in terms of not from a dream standpoint, but I'm going to be okay when I make $100,000. I'm going to be okay when this happens. We've got to let that go. You're okay today, because if we constantly are in that fight of the next thing, you just truly don't get to enjoy this thing. And if anything, this current climate has taught us is that God knows we better enjoy today because tomorrow is in fact not promised.
So there's some interesting questions coming through that I think are like along this way is like, especially as we think about the move towards the dream, right? And yet we're in a business that can be incredibly transactional.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And you were talking about something and I was like, oh, this is like complicated to unpack about how the person in the White House has been so singularly focused and none of us wants to be like that person. I don't think. I'm going to go ahead and say that for this group of people. I feel like,
right.
I feel like I can say it's like all these women who are watching right now. I'm like pretty sure I can confidently say that for this group of people. And yet you really do have to worry about yourself and your dream, right?
Yep.
And how do you, and being a good person is so important to you. So how do you make sure that you are moving towards your dream without stepping on toes? And like you do such an incredible job of like smashing open doors and bringing people through with you.
Yes.
So that is not laser focused on your own like narcissistic dream. That is in fact moving forward in this very community spirit. And do you feel like you do certain things intentionally to like not step on people along the way?
Absolutely. And I had to, you have to be conscious. That's the thing about what happened this year, this collective consciousness that's been raised. I absolutely pray that we can stay this awake or woke, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Because what ends up happening is if I am consciously moving through life, then I am recognizing, one of my best friends just yesterday, I said, whoa, when I had my mask on the other day when we were doing this live event through StreamYard, and her child was near. And I was like, hey, stay back because I can't have anybody within 6 feet of me, right? And I may not have communicated that properly.
Right.
So I circled back and was like, hey, how did your child interpret my actions that day? And tell her for me, I'm sorry. See, that's conscious living. We don't always get it right in the moment.
Right.
So that's another thing. We have to be forgiving of ourselves. We don't always get it right in the moment, but you have to live consciously and constantly self-evaluate. I don't give a damn how busy you are.
Yeah.
You have to self-evaluate.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you will always lift as you climb if you truly are a person who cares about people.
That's so interesting because you're talking about carving out really essential, quiet reflection time. I think I made a New Year's resolution, which I don't normally do. I don't adhere to traditional structure that well, but I made a New Year's resolution a couple of years ago to be responsive and not reactive. And then I realized, no, that's actually like my life's journey. And realizing how much all of this trains us to be reactive and think we need to have an opinion about everything, when in fact, a lot of times the right response is like, I'm not the right person to make a call here. That's or like, right. I am not the one to know the thing, or I probably didn't say that the right way. But it's, we're being trained in a different, the word that came up to me was like metabolism. Yeah. The way that we like metabolize information and interactions is just to like get it in and spit it out, when in fact we have to slow everything down.
And Emily, you also have to let go of the guilt.
I'm Jewish. You can't ask me to do that. Okay. It's a cultural imperative for my entire.
That's hilarious.
I can't. But thank you. I appreciate that. That's also my journey.
and I think it's most women's. Sorry, fellas. It's most women's journey, right? Mothers. I talk to my friends who have children all the time about this. letting go of the guilt. I didn't pay as much attention to the kids yesterday, but for 350 days of the year, you pay attention to the kids. And for the, 15 that you didn't, you're beating yourself up about it. And so we have to, try to let go of the guilt as much as we can.
It is, I think, too, in this moment of intense work-life integration,
right,
where I have to switch contexts to be here present for you, but I'm sure you've seen little people running around in the background, and I'm putting myself on mute a lot because Go Noodle is playing in the living room. It's just like, it's nuts around here. And we're like, the context switching we're doing now as creative people and as entrepreneurs and as business people and just people like working any job of any kind or trying to work a job or trying to raise a family, being kind of trapped in this powder keg environment, I think makes it harder to be responsive.
Yeah.
And it makes it harder to not feel the gap. So for me, it used to be that I would go to the office, right? And I would work at the office and I didn't have to think about the time that I was missing with my children. But now it's a glass door. My daughter's right there. Like I can see what she's up to. They'll go swimming and I can see how much fun they're having. And now I am like physically feeling the anguish of missing it.
Right.
So there's just a real, like, I feel like everyone is confronting the compromises that we've been, the agreement we made about work and family and the time that we sacrifice, for work that could be otherwise spent with our loved ones. And it has us landed in a place of, I feel like everybody is a little bit like, what is my career?
That's right. There's been a lot of that. Exactly.
Yeah. What is this and what am I doing now? And will it continue to look the same? And that's kind of the last question I want to ask you. Like, this time has been so trying, and I'm not just talking about the pandemic. I'm talking about this like second civil rights uprising, which we are just, it really feels like at the tip of.
Yeah.
Does your work look the same moving forward that it has in the past? Like, is there a remix afoot now? Like, what does it feel like for you moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think that because of the organizations that I'm currently working with, I get a chance, and this is a beautiful thing. And once again, if you have the courage to dig deep and do the work that I felt like I did, you can get here. I'm not to the pinnacle yet, but I'm so damn happy, Emily. I really, really am, because every day I wake up and work for an organization that I'm proud to be able to now put a message out every single day about women's health, Black Lives Matter, all of these different things. So I'm able to do it through digital content, through social content, through, all these different mediums. When we go back to normal, if there ever is, such a thing, we'll be shooting live again, and so I actually will be shooting live on the 20th very safely, for a breast campaign. So yeah, it's changed, but boy, am I loving every bit of it, because I get to tell people information that I didn't even know. And that's another thing. I'm involved with situations now because I put myself in that room, okay? By intentionally doing one thing. And so I'm going to leave you with this. There was an election going on in Atlanta a couple of years ago for a new mayor. And I said to myself, oh, wow, I don't really care for this one candidate. And I really, like what I've heard from this other one. And I knew one of my friends was very good friends with the person running. So I said, let me make a phone call. Call my buddy up. I said, hey, Michelle, what can I do? I said, I just want to get involved. I said, so just, she said, well, what are you strong in, Lisa? I said, well, I'm pretty good with the LGBTQ community in Atlanta. And for, the female business, atypical, entrepreneurs. She said, wait a minute. we haven't even tapped into the urban LGBTQ community. Help us with that. Got off the phone, had some marching orders. We set some things up, called some friends, set up some forums, and it went on and on and on. Next thing I know, she's the current mayor of the city of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, right? I was so proud to have just done what we don't even talk about anymore. Your civic duty, my civic duty, right? Just so proud to have done that one thing. And didn't think anything was going to come from that. I get a phone call from that same woman who said, hey, Lisa, she's doing this inaugural LGBTQ advisory board. Would you like to sit on it? That act of service gave me a seat at a whole nother table. So I want to leave with that. Sometimes you have to lead with service and intention, and so much good can come from it. So much good could come from it.
Can you remind folks the organization that you're currently working with?
Sure. The Black Women's Health Imperative. Wonderful organization, been around for 38 years, and I'm proud to support them now. I still work with other companies, but that is my heart and soul right now.
I really hear that. Lisa, I mean, thank goodness for you on this Friday. Like, what a beautiful way to move into the weekend. We have folks in the comments saying they're going to have to come back and watch this again for inspiration. Like, really, really appreciate your energy and your spirit and your time that you've given to us now on multiple occasions. I really appreciate it. And for those of you watching, all of these sessions are presented for free. But there will be a little link that we drop in that if you have a few dollars to contribute so that we can continue to present these for free for everyone, please do. And I just want to be really clear. If all you had to invest today was this time in yourself, we are very happy with that. If you are able to contribute a few dollars, that allows us to keep them free for the foreseeable future. That's our goal. And we have a bunch of sessions coming up. So if you go to seedandspark.com/events, next week we have an incredible actors roundtable, which I'm really excited about. Jake Choi from Single Parents, Raul Castillo, who's been in everything recently, and Nana Mensa and Janina Gavankar are joining us next week. It's going to be a rad roundtable of actors of color who are going to talk, among other things, about how they use their platforms for good. Lisa, I just thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing for the Black Women's Health Imperative. Thank you for your help with, I like to keep my fingers crossed, and I know the chances are slim, but Vice President Keisha Lance Bottoms, like, come on.
I tell you, either way, I'm with her wherever she goes.
we need her energy, moving forward. And Georgia is producing a lot of the women to watch on the political stage.
That's right.
And so it's probably an exciting time and place to be there. Tell the people where they can find you.
Sure. My website is ihavethesecret.com. So if you ever want to hit me up for a consultation, if you feel stuck, we can talk through this like on a real level. And then on all the social channels, I'm just CAPT Cunningham. And that's it.
Thank you, Lisa. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks, Emily. Okay. Bye-bye.